In this episode, we're going to talk about something that is easy to ignore until it breaks your response: team well-being. Beginners sometimes assume well-being is a nice-to-have topic that belongs in human resources, but in incident leadership, it's a core operational risk. When people get exhausted, they make mistakes, miss details, communicate poorly, and lose the patience needed for disciplined work, and those failures can cause more damage than the original technical problem. Incidents also tend to feel urgent and personal, which pushes teams into an unhealthy sprint that turns into a long, blurry marathon. A leader's job is to keep the response sustainable so the team can maintain accuracy and good judgment over time, not just in the first hour. Well-being isn't about comfort. It's about preventing predictable failure patterns caused by fatigue and stress. By the end, you should understand how burnout shows up during incidents, how to reduce it proactively, and how to help teams recover after the event so capability improves rather than erodes. The first key idea is that incidents create a specific kind of stress that can quietly distort thinking. In normal work, people have time to double-check, ask questions, and revisit decisions. But during an incident, time pressure, uncertainty, and visible impact make the brain crave quick conclusions. That leads to premature certainty, where people decide what happened before the evidence is strong, and then they build plans around that assumption. It can also lead to tunnel vision, where someone becomes fixated on one theory or one system and stops noticing contradictory signals. Stress can also cause emotional shortcuts, like blaming individuals too early or interpreting every new alert as proof of disaster. A leader prioritizing well-being is not only trying to make people feel better, but trying to protect the team's thinking quality. Calm thinking is a capability, and well-being supports calm thinking by keeping stress at a manageable level. This is why well-being belongs inside incident readiness, not beside it. Burnout during incidents often begins with a simple pattern: too many hours, too little sleep, and too much cognitive load without relief. Cognitive load is the total mental effort required to keep track of facts, tasks, timelines, communication, and decision trade-offs at once. When cognitive load stays high for too long, people start forgetting what they've already checked, repeating work, or missing simple steps. They may also become less willing to ask for help, either out of pride or fear of appearing incompetent, which increases isolation and stress. You can see burnout creeping in when the team's communication becomes shorter, more irritable, or less precise, and when task updates become vague. Another sign is when people stop documenting because it feels slower, and they rely on memory instead, which is a fatigue amplifier. A leader's job is to spot these patterns early, because once burnout is deep, performance drops quickly and recovery takes longer. One of the most effective burnout prevention strategies is designing response work so it can be shared, because shared work reduces the feeling that the entire outcome rests on one person. This connects to our ACI thinking, because when roles and ownership are clear, people can rotate responsibilities without losing continuity. For example, someone can own the timeline for a few hours while another person takes over technical coordination, and then they can switch. That kind of rotation protects accuracy because it reduces long stretches of concentrated attention on the same task. It also helps prevent the quiet hero culture where one person refuses to step away, which often ends in mistakes and resentment. Shared work also allows leaders to build redundancy, meaning more than one person understands critical details, so the response is resilient to fatigue and absence. In exam scenarios that involve long-running incidents, actions that establish handoffs, shift rotations, and shared ownership often represent strong leadership. Another prevention strategy is making rest a planned component of the response, not a reward at the end. Rest sounds obvious, but during incidents, people often treat it as optional, and they push through until they crash. A leader can normalize rest by explicitly scheduling breaks and shifts, and by framing them as a way to protect decision quality. Even short breaks can reduce error rates because they reset attention and allow the brain to process information. Shift planning also forces handoffs, which improves documentation and clarity, because people must communicate what is confirmed and what remains unknown. That discipline protects the incident record and reduces the chance of the team repeating work. Planned rest also protects communications, because tired people are more likely to send sloppy updates that create confusion or false confidence. For beginners, the important connection is that rest is part of containment and recovery, because a well-rested team makes better containment choices and recovers more efficiently. It is not separate from response. It is one of the controls that keeps response effective. Well-being during incidents is also about emotional safety, because incidents can create blame, fear, and defensiveness that damage collaboration. When people feel blamed, they hide mistakes, avoid sharing bad news, or delay escalation, and those behaviors make incidents worse. A strong incident leader creates a culture where reporting problems early is valued, because early truth is more useful than late perfection. This is not about ignoring accountability. It is about separating the need to solve the incident from the need to analyze performance later. During response, you want facts, not fault, because fault-seeking slows learning and increases stress. After the incident, you can investigate root causes and responsibility in a structured way, but during the event you prioritize clarity and coordination. Beginners can understand this as the difference between putting out a fire and later figuring out why the fire started. When the exam tests leadership, it often rewards approaches that keep teams communicating honestly under pressure. Another element of well-being is managing uncertainty, because uncertainty is mentally exhausting. When the team does not know what is happening, they often compensate by doing more work, chasing more alerts, and pulling in more people, which can increase noise. A leader reduces uncertainty by creating a clear source of truth, maintaining an accurate timeline, and stating clearly what is confirmed and what is not. This does not eliminate uncertainty, but it prevents uncertainty from turning into chaos. It also helps the team avoid emotional spirals, where every new signal is interpreted as disaster. When you can say, "We have confirmed these facts, we are investigating these hypotheses, and we are taking these containment steps," the response feels more controlled. Controlled response reduces stress, and reduced stress improves performance, which is a positive loop. This is another reason well-being is tied to documentation and task tracking, because those practices are calming in a very practical way. They replace rumor with record. Burnout prevention also includes protecting people from constant interruption, because interruptions fragment attention and increase cognitive load. During incidents, it is common for stakeholders to ask for frequent updates, and those requests can unintentionally disrupt the team's ability to actually do the work. A good leader manages this by creating a communication rhythm, where updates happen at defined intervals and through defined channels. That protects responders from being pulled into endless status conversations, and it ensures stakeholders receive consistent information. It also helps separate the technical workstream from the communication workstream, so the technical team can focus while the communications lead crafts updates. This is a well-being issue because constant interruption increases stress and creates the feeling of never making progress. When progress feels invisible, people work longer hours to compensate, which accelerates burnout. Communication discipline is therefore a well-being control as well as a coordination control. Now let's talk about the recovery side, because incidents don't end when systems come back online. After intense response periods, people often return to normal work immediately, carrying fatigue and frustration forward. That leads to slower work, increased errors, and sometimes cynicism about future readiness efforts. Recovery includes giving teams time to decompress, review what happened, and return to normal capacity gradually, especially after long incidents. This is also where after-action learning connects to well-being, because a well-run review can transform stress into constructive improvement rather than lingering resentment. The leader should ensure that the review is structured, fair, and focused on learning, not on humiliation. If people fear the review, they will hide information and the organization will miss lessons. If the review is respectful and evidence-based, teams are more likely to speak honestly and propose improvements. This type of recovery strengthens capability because it makes people more confident, not more afraid. A strong recovery practice is recognizing and addressing moral injury, which is the feeling that you were forced to make choices that violated your sense of what is right. In incidents, people sometimes have to choose between imperfect options, like keeping a service online despite risk because the business cannot tolerate downtime, or isolating systems and harming operations to prevent worse damage. Those choices can leave responders feeling responsible for harm either way. A leader can reduce moral injury by making decision authority clear, by documenting the reasons for decisions, and by ensuring decisions are shared with appropriate stakeholders. That way, the burden is not silently carried by a single responder. Documentation helps here because it shows that decisions were made based on evidence and trade-offs, not carelessness. This is also why escalation paths matter, because escalation ensures that decisions with major business impact are owned by people who have the authority to accept that impact. When moral injury is reduced, recovery is faster, and teams remain willing to engage in future incidents without dread. Another key recovery element is restoring trust within the team, because stressful incidents can produce conflict. People may disagree about priorities, feel unheard, or feel that their work was not valued. A leader can help by acknowledging the effort, clarifying what was learned, and making sure improvements are actually followed through. Follow-through matters because nothing drains morale faster than repeating the same failure pattern after promising to fix it. Recovery also includes practical adjustments, such as improving handoffs, clarifying pre-approved actions, or strengthening logging and backups, because tangible improvements make future incidents feel less scary. When people see the organization investing in readiness, they feel supported rather than exploited. That support increases engagement and reduces burnout risk over time. For beginners, the message is that well-being is not only an individual responsibility, it is a system property created by leadership choices and organizational follow-through. During an incident, leaders can also use small behavioral techniques to reduce stress without slowing response. One technique is to normalize uncertainty by stating what is unknown and what is being done to learn it, rather than pretending certainty exists. Another technique is to keep meetings short and purposeful, because long meetings increase fatigue and often create more confusion than clarity. A third technique is to encourage concise updates, where responders report facts and actions rather than emotional interpretations. Leaders can also protect responders by limiting who is pulled into high-stress channels and keeping unnecessary observers out, because crowded channels increase noise and social pressure. These actions are not about being controlling. They are about protecting focus and reducing cognitive overload. The exam may not ask about well-being directly in every question, but it often tests behaviors that support well-being, such as disciplined communication, clear ownership, and sustainable operations. Those are well-being practices disguised as process practices. A common misconception is that burnout is unavoidable during incidents, and that leaders should simply accept it as part of the job. In reality, burnout is predictable and therefore manageable, especially when you plan for it before incidents occur. Planning includes designing shifts, defining roles, setting communication rhythms, and practicing handoffs so people can step away without fear the response will collapse. It also includes setting expectations that response is a team effort, not a hero story, and that sustainable performance is more valuable than exhausted intensity. The healthiest incident response teams often look calm from the outside, not because the incident is easy, but because they have practiced and built the structure that keeps stress from spiraling. That calm is a performance advantage, not a personality trait. Beginners can adopt this mindset early by valuing structure, documentation, and rest as real response controls. Those controls keep people effective, and effectiveness is the goal. To close, prioritizing team well-being during incidents is not a soft extra. It is a practical leadership strategy that protects accuracy, speed, and decision quality. Burnout leads to mistakes, missed handoffs, vague communication, and weak documentation, which can extend incidents and increase harm. Leaders prevent burnout by sharing work through clear roles, planning shifts and breaks, maintaining a reliable source of truth, and enforcing communication discipline that protects focus. Recovery after incidents matters because it determines whether the team emerges stronger or weaker, and that depends on respectful learning, real follow-through, and attention to fatigue and moral burden. When you treat well-being as part of readiness, you are building a response capability that can endure, not just react. That mindset aligns with incident leadership, and it is exactly what the GCIL incident leader role expects you to demonstrate in both thinking and practice.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.